Welcome in to the Rust Belt Rundown. My gosh, it's been a day, a week, a month, maybe even a year. Insert friends clap here. Listen, you know it's going to be a crazy Monday. It's Monday, October 13th, when I got to lead off with a friend's quote, joke, I don't know, what have you. But we are back. We took a week off. I had a vacation. Paul, you were doing a little more than that. But welcome back, buddy. Good to be back on the show. Good to have things rolling again. Good to see you. How's it going, man?
Doing very well. Thanks for welcoming me back. I watched the show while I was out. Awesome stuff. Bradford, you guys are great. Super happy to be back. I talked to you for 2 minutes before the show. I was like, I'm a little tired, but like I'm a little wired. I'm super excited to be back. I thought I sent a great gift to you. I was like, I said the Bart Scott can't wait. And then you responded in kind with an even better one. And I was like, let's go. We're ready. We're ready.
We are ready, man. I'll tell you what. Yeah. So 2 weeks ago, we brought in head coach Wayne Bradford to help co-host there, and nothing makes me feel like I know less about football than talking with Coach Wayne Bradford. The guy is just
I love that though.
Of knowledge. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, I love that though. Every time you talk to the guy, you learn something, and you learn it and he's just like excited to teach you. So I love that guy. So I'm glad. I was a little like, I was like, they may not bring me back. They may just keep Wayne here.
Well, if Wayne didn't have more important things to do, you might be right. No, I'm just kidding.
Fair enough.
we could never get rid of you. We need you because I need people that know ball, because I don't know ball apparently. But that's neither here nor there. Tonight, we got a lot of stuff we want to get into. And then last week we had to take the week off, got some time away. So it was good, but we're back.
Yes.
We're back. We got a lot of stuff we want to get into. Obviously, we're going to cover that Browns-Steelers game. We're going to get into some news here in a second. But speaking of people that make us feel like inadequate about knowing ball, T. Frank Carr going to join us a little later on as well. So talking about
love that guy.
The fallout in Happy Valley. I think that's the best way to maybe kind of.
I can't believe we got him. I was a little skeptical. I was like, is he gonna have time for us this week? This is, I don't know how many bigger weeks he's had in the history of his job down there at BW. But this is a big one.
I texted him yesterday after the noon, a couple hour. It was yesterday. I guess it was like halftime of the Steelers-Browns game or something like that. And I was like, dude, I know you got a lot going on, but we're open if you're open. And so graciously he has accepted. So we will get to T. Frank later in the show.
I love it.
Before we do, let's jump into the news. Nope, that's not the one I wanted. My gosh, it was a weekend of survival and setbacks in the Rust Belt Rundown, but also in the NFL and college football abroad. A crazy weekend. Let's start with this, not because it's maybe the most important, but it's definitely the most recent at the time of this recording, and that's Cleveland. The city of Cleveland and the Haslam Sports Group reach a historic $100 million agreement for the residents of the city in Cleveland and the region. This essentially paves the way for the domed stadium entertainment villa that is Brook Park. This agreement includes a $100 million commitment from HSG to the city of Cleveland that will, quote, accelerate the lakefront transformation and prepare the current lakefront stadium site for redevelopment, and the city's commitment to support the continuing progress and timely completion of the Browns' future home in Brook Park. A lot of legal speak that says, I don't know, we'll do whatever you want us to do as long as we can move the stadium to Brook Park.
I just heard like the Charlie Brown teacher. Wah, 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 wah. Yeah.
That's exactly what it is. So I don't have really a news angle on this. Sure, I think it could be cool. They're going to have a really cool venue over by the airport. I think that's going to boost travel, make, like you said, what did you say? It's going to be Jerry World.
So the way that Jerry Jones took over Arlington, Texas and turned it into basically Jerry World, it's its own town now built around a football stadium. That's what the Haslams are going to try to do in Brook Park. I hate it personally. I love the stadium on the lake. I love the visuals. I love it being outdoors. I love snow games. Talk to me in 10 years. I'll probably like Brook Park. I'll probably love it. It's going to be amazing. But right now I'm not a fan.
You're like a Steelers fan.
Slow to change.
You're like a Steelers fan that's like, bring back Three Rivers. We need Three Rivers.
Yeah, kind of.
So we'll see what happens now. Yeah, I agree with you. It'll be cool to see. But all right, on to some NFL news that happened this weekend. And let's start with Black Monday in October. Titans fire Brian Callahan. Tennessee moves on after a 1-5 start, 4-19 overall in Callahan's tenure there. Was Callahan the problem in Tennessee, or is this a roster reset situation that they just didn't give enough time to?
I think it's a production fire. They're bottom 5 in points per play, yards per play, explosive rate. Ownership has not been good. They got rid of a good coach because of mismanagement. I think they've had 2 GMs since like the last election. So they're not really sticking to anything. There's no consistency there. I'm not going to defend Brian Callahan. I'll defend his dad. His dad's one of the best offensive line coaches in the history of the NFL. I think it was probably a reach of a hire. I'm glad they gave the guy a shot, but it clearly wasn't working. You sent me a text earlier today about the number, like the last 4 first overall pick quarterbacks have all had their coaches fired. And my immediate reaction to this, the Titans just being the latest one, how are these GMs getting jobs, dude? This is incredible how bad these guys are at running football franchise. There are 12-year-olds on Xbox who run teams more efficiently with more sense than these guys who do it in the real world. And it just, I feel bad for the players. I feel bad for, Bryce Young is, maybe he's starting to turn a corner, but I like Cam Ward as a person. I knew he had just like a long way to go, but his story has been great up to this point, and firing a guy 6 games into his career, I mean, it's going to be 18 months before he's even like back to zero. So it's just tough, man. I hate to see it for the players and the Titans, man. You kind of get what you deserve from an ownership standpoint.
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, that was per Adam Schefter. The last 4 quarterbacks taken, number 1 overall, have seen their head coach fired during their rookie campaign. 25, Cam Ward. 24, Caleb Williams with Matt Eberflus. 23, Bryce Young with Frank Reich. And then 21, Trevor Lawrence with Urban Meyer. That one, that one may have been deserved.
I forgot about that one. The Urban Meyer year, that kind of blacked out on that one.
When he kicked his kicker, it was all downhill from there.
Well, he was caught in the nightclub after the Monday night game or something like that. I don't know. I was just like, this is weird, man.
Just there for the money. All right, moving over to Los Angeles. Puka Nacua, this one's tough. Ankle sprain. The NFL's catch leader is likely to miss time after injuring his ankle versus the Ravens. If Nacua sits, do the Rams have enough pass game juice, or is this where the offense stalls?
They're going to have to. The guy who led the NFL in catches and yards entering Sunday, I think in the short term they're going to be fine. Isn't this why you brought Devontae Adams in? McVay's going to lean run. He's from that Shanahan tree, so I think he's going to be fine. Adams is at the end of his prime, we'll say, hanging on. So they're gonna need to lean on him. But I have a lot of faith in Matt Stafford. I have even more faith in Sean McVay. If Puka comes back, I think it'll be okay. I think if this is sort of a season ender, or he's gone for 8 weeks, it could derail the playoff chances for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you're right about Adams there too. Moving on. Do you hear that? Do you hear that? MVP. Baker Mayfield is playing at such an MVP caliber level. Sits at number 1 on MVP watch after leading the Bucs to 5-1 despite a battered wide receiver room. Clutch plays after clutch plays. That's per NFL.com. Is Baker the true front runner right now for MVP, or is this more about Tampa just winning close games that have really just been coin flips?
Tell me a better candidate for it. I think he's been situationally elite, which is why he's the front runner. 3rd downs and 2-minute drill, right? And he's making plays. And on top of that, he just has that, man, he gets hit and he just gets up and he just goes insane. Like he's the Cam Scatterboo of quarterbacks. And I think teams really rally around that. He's playing well. He's got 3 stud receivers, and all of them have missed time. It doesn't seem to have mattered. They're 5-1. They're in first place in their division. Let's see how it goes for another month. But if it sustains, this isn't a coin flip anymore. He's the guy.
I saw this meme on social media, and it was like, Mahomes made that run last night and went headfirst into the defender, and Collinsworth is like, there's not a quarterback that's going to do that. Meanwhile, Baker Mayfield, like 3 hours earlier, was just, pulling, like you said, pulling a Cam Scatterbo. No, man, he looks good. I bet Cleveland wishes they were able to start him last weekend instead of Dylan Gabriel. We'll talk more about that later. Hey, you mentioned Cam Scatterbo, so here's the next piece of news. Jackson Dart and Cam Scatterbo, they have sparked back-to-back wins over the Chargers and the Eagles and really seem like they have shifted the culture that is coming out of the Giants locker room right now. Do these rookies have an opportunity to really swing the Giants season?
Listen, man, I think Dart is the spark. I think Scatterbo is the accelerant. I think
I love that.
The QB brings gravity to the situation. I don't know how long he's going to last in this league with that kind of playing style. Neither of them. That's Dart and Scatterbo. But while they're here, Tony Kornheiser had a great quote about Bob Sanders 20 years ago. He said, Bob Sanders might play 7 minutes in a season, but for those 7 minutes, he is pure magic. And I feel like that's sort of the career arc of Dart and Scatterbo at this point. These guys do not GAF about the future of their brains, but they are so fun in the moment right now. Scatterbo is a tone setter. Dart, the ceiling, it resets that franchise if the math plays out, man. I'm just excited for that team. They're so fun to watch.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, no, they really do at least make it bearable to watch the Giants.
Yeah.
I love how even when Russ went back in, you had Brian Daboll going back to the tent like, can he please please bring him back out here. Please. Can we move back on? So
Daboll took so much heat for that, and I was like, that's exactly what I do. So I don't know. Maybe that says more about me, but I'm like, you want your guys in there for sure. I don't care. You find me $10K, that's fine. Whatever.
Yeah, chump change.
Exactly.
Oh man. Well, listen, that's all I had for news. Did I miss anything? Anything you wanted to hit?
I think that's good on news. You didn't mention anything about the Dolphins, so I appreciate you.
I left that out for you. I know how things are at for you, so I don't want to hurt you any more than I already have.
You couldn't hurt me anymore. It's impossible.
All right, then let's go ahead and let's jump. I'm so excited to talk about T. Frank, but we can't get there yet. I keep wanting to make Penn State jokes and I can't make them. I got to hold on to them for now.
Save it.
Yeah. Instead, let's go make fun of the Browns. All right. Steelers 23, Browns 9. Man, this game was tough. The Steelers controlled a battled AFC North game, beating the Browns 23-9 at Acrisure Stadium after a field goal slog to halftime, which was 9-3 in favor of Pittsburgh. The turning point came early in the third, and a Browns roughing the punter penalty extended a would-be Steelers 3-and-out, and Aaron Rodgers capped the revived drive with a 12-yard touchdown to Connor Haywood, and then a 25-yard touchdown to DK Metcalf in the fourth sealed it. Was this a game you wanted to see kind of come out from the Steelers, or is this just maybe the a bad look Browns team?
Could you say that again? I couldn't hear you over the music.
No. I got too excited about the music. Yeah, see, even Isaac is throwing it at me too there. Can't hear you over the music. Listen, let me just run that back. The Steelers they now control the AFC North. After this slog of a game, they beat the Browns 23-9 at Acrisure Stadium after a field goal halftime. It was 9-3 Pittsburgh at half. The turning point came early in the third after a Browns roughing the punter. Punter extended a would-be Steelers 3-and-out. Aaron Rodgers capped the revived drive with a 12-yard touchdown to Connor Haywood, a 25-yard touchdown to DK Metcalf in the fourth. Sealed the game, though. Is this really what you wanted to see, a second-half Steelers offense? Is this a good look, a good win for the Steelers, or was this a bad look for the Browns? You go while I try to fix my microphone.
If you're the Steelers, and I'll let you give more of the Steelers' perspective because you're more dialed into them than I am. I think if the Steelers, I think it's a good win. Any win's a good win. It goes in the win column. It's a conference win. It's a division win. And the number in the win column goes up. From the Browns side, this was very, very, very bad. They still have not won in Pittsburgh since George W. Bush was president. The offense looked, they haven't gotten any better since Flacco, and they just jettisoned him into the division, and they might have looked worse. Now, I have been a Kevin Stefanski apologist for a lot of years. I think he's taken some bad teams, had some nice maneuverings over the course of seasons. He's always been a QB whisperer, but this isn't good. Dylan Gabriel attempted 52 passes yesterday. He got sacked 6 times. That means he dropped back 58 times yesterday with that offensive line. They've had 4 guys. It's week 6. They've had 4 guys play left tackle. Yeah. Okay, the line is so bad. You play the front 7. Now the Steelers' defense has not been all it's been cracked up to be. I feel like they showed up a little bit yesterday. I don't know how much of that percentage of that was the Browns' offensive line was absolutely abysmal. But Gabriel did not look good. Their best offensive piece, outside of Harold Fannin, another fantastic rookie, has been Quinshon Judkins the last 3 weeks, or the 2 weeks prior to this one, and they gave him the ball 12 times yesterday. 12 times. They dropped back 58 and then gave their best player 12 opportunities. And they didn't he had 1 target. They didn't even throw him the ball. They're not even trying the extension of the run game. They go 3rd and goal or whatever it was. Out of the shotgun, they bring Jerome Ford onto the field. I think it was Galaxy Brain Dumb from I don't know if it's Stefanski still calling plays. I think it is. Tommy Reese is the offensive coordinator, first year there. Guy coming from college, a former quarterback, so he sees the game through the lens of a quarterback. I just hated the game plan, and what I found myself thinking was, I feel the same thing every week. You could probably AI my voice talking about the Browns and my take on them, because I'm saying the same thing week after week after week. What are we doing with the offensive line? The play balance isn't good. The play design isn't good. Everything seems stale. Teams know how to play the Browns now, and there's just no adjustments. And I think the last thing I'm just going to say from the Browns perspective is Gabriel wasn't fantastic. Okay, nobody's going to argue that. The drops are becoming a problem. How many times can you hit a guy in both hands and him not come up with it and this be the quarterback problem? I saw it from Jerry Jeudy. I saw it from David Njoku. I saw Isaiah Bond got $3 million guaranteed. Dude, he's getting paid like $3 million per catch at this point. They're giving him tons of opportunities. He's come up with no plays, although I do think he has their longest play of the season is like 36 or 37 yards or something. They just lack explosive. The run game is completely gone. They're out of sorts. Good for the Steelers. I mean, it's a division win. But the Browns, man, I don't know. I predicted early in the season that we were going to see Shadur late in the season. I might have been wrong, because it might be sooner rather than later at this point. I don't know what you do.
Did you see Jalen Ramsey on one of his sacks? He just walked to the sideline and pointed at Shadur like, "This should be you." Man.
Did he actually say that? I saw a tweet that intimated that he said that, but I didn't hear any audio.
He definitely pointed at her. He said something, so who knows?
Okay.
I doubt he was saying anything polite to Shadur Sanders. That doesn't sound like something Jalen Ramsey
Knowing
would
Jalen,
be
it was probably colorful. Yeah.
Right, exactly. But let's talk about that 6-sack surge. Pittsburgh racked up those 6 sacks, but I think even more so, 16 quarterback hits as the run defense forced the Browns into 52 pass attempts. I mean, Nick Herbig had a breakout game in this one. You think okay, you have TJ Watt. You got to account for him. All right, fine. Alex Highsmith came back in this one. Yep, okay, we'll account for him. Okay, one of those guys are off the field. We're going to catch a break. Nope, because Nick Herbig is coming around that corner, and he had 2 sacks and 4 quarterback hits. The pass rush, the outside linebacker group, because then even when you get down into 4th and you have, oh my gosh, what's the guy's name from Ohio State that they drafted? I'm blanking on the name. Jack Sawyer. Sawyer then comes in. So it's really the one big depth piece that Pittsburgh has. That's what they need to do to get the defense rolling again. If they can get those 4 guys and throw in Jalen Ramsey now, if you can get those guys at a quarterback, I don't care if it's Dylan Gabriel or Mahomes, that's going to be the recipes for this defense if they want to have that slow-paced run game offense. And the rushing game worked in this. Warren was back. There was an even split between Gainwell and Caleb Johnson. They hit 100 yards. Rodgers was efficient. Yes, that's going to work, but it's not. You're not always going to be playing what'd you say? It was like the 12th iteration of their offensive line, and then now Jack Conklin is out on this one too. So I think flipping over to the Steelers side, I think this was great, but I'm not coming out of this game thinking All right, Steelers Super Bowl. Are they going to win the AFC North? Yeah, but it's by default because the Browns are the Browns. Lamar is going to put the Ravens in a hole that they might not be able to dig out of. They might get to the playoffs, but the Steelers don't have as tough of a schedule as they had last year, so I could easily see them for sure getting to the end of the season and getting that another winning season for Mike Tomlin. But I'm not coming out of this game like, okay, the Steelers have turned a corner. We're there. I don't know. I'm not quite there. The one thing that sorry, go ahead.
No, finish.
No, I was going to change the narrative a little bit because I want to talk about a guy that I do think turned a corner and I am excited about, and maybe it's because he was my Keystone player back on the old Flagship City days when we picked our Keystone Player of the Year for the team. I knew
that's why you made that. You picked this, yeah.
Broderick Jones held his own. He moved to left tackle. He's had a rough start to the year. He's had a rough start to his career with penalties and things like that. But he really I think this was a big game for him. Being able to hold Myles Garrett without a sack, that's huge for the best tackle in the league, let alone a guy who's been a little rough around the edges and starting to figure it out. The Steelers' offensive line, if they can be that cohesive, I don't think Rodgers was touched in that game. No, he wasn't. They had no sacks that game at all. I don't even think they had a couple QB hits, but okay, that's fine. If this offensive line, and even more so Broderick Jones, can keep Rodgers healthy, between that and the pass rush, that's going to be what the Steelers need to make a deep playoff run.
Absolutely. And let's the Browns were the flip side of that. The total 180. How many times did Rodgers drop back yesterday? 30 times. They gave Myles Garrett 30 opportunities to get after him. And Jones did his job. He went 30 for 30 yesterday. Awesome job. The Browns made their rookie quarterback drop back nearly twice as many times, 58 times. That's 28 more opportunities to get after the quarterback, and you saw 6 sacks in those extra 28 opportunities. So a good job by Jones. Obviously, Garrett is a man among boys. I thought the scheme to help him with chips from the backs and tight ends, just kind of slow that rush down a little bit, give him just a little bit of help. That was enough, but that's winning football from Arthur Jones. And Broderick Jones did his job, man. So I love that for him.
No, I agree. So let's kind of wrap it up here. Mm-hmm. The Steelers are 4-1. They're sole position atop the AFC North. Rodgers is looking efficient, not explosive. I think Schefter reported today or tweeted out today that the Steelers are in a market for another wide receiver. Yeah, they have been for 2 years now. But let's say things stay as they are, right? Is this offense good enough playing on schedule, turnover free like they did against the Browns, or do they need more downfield juice to beat some of these AFC elites, which is kind of an oxymoron as there's not many AFC elites left, but you know what I mean.
I do. Is efficient Rodgers enough? I think it's enough to stack wins. I think efficient Rodgers and good defense and working run game is enough to get you into January, playing January football. I think that is the brand of football that wins in January, but I do think you need 2 to 3 DK Metcalf explosives per game.
Yeah.
In the playoffs in January and probably even before then, just to kind of keep that ceiling high, keep defenses honest, and keep Pittsburgh in that we can beat anybody because we can play even with people all season, like all game, and we have just enough to be the difference in the game. I think DK is paid to be that guy. I think he needs to be that guy come January.
I think that's fair. And Tomlin knows a thing or two about starting quarterbacks. He said in his press conference today, he goes, to be honest, it was shocking to me when he's talking about Joe Flacco being traded to the Bengals. He says, quote, Andrew Berry must be a lot smarter than me or us because it doesn't make sense to me to trade a quarterback that you think enough of to make your opening day starter to a division opponent that's hurting in that area. But that's just my personal feelings, end quote. Shots fired from Mike Tomlin to Andrew Berry. But I do want to kind of wrap up the Browns in talking about that. I mean, they do make the trade from Flacco. They say we're going to commit to Dylan Gabriel. They wouldn't even commit to Shador being the 2, but he ended up being the 2. So what does this quarterback room look like for the rest of the year? Do you think no matter what happens, they give Dylan the keys to the car the rest of the way? Did they show that by clearing out Flacco?
I do. I think as long as he's healthy, I think they really like Dylan Gabriel, the person. I think they like Dylan Gabriel the quarterback brain. I think he's a winner. I think he is what Stefanski wants his quarterback to be, an on-time, on-target, quick processor with just enough juice to spread the ball around on time. They don't have the offensive line for it, and for whatever reason yesterday, they didn't want to run the ball. I think that I think the coach messed up the quarterback yesterday more than the quarterback messed up their own offense. But I think as long as Gabriel can step in, they want him in there. They like him.
Yeah. I don't know. It'll be crazy. I think you're going to have, you've had it since Flacco was named the starter. You have everybody kind of calling and pushing for Shador, and he's the conversation.
The Shahive is real, and it's not going to get any quieter.
The Shahive. That's the first I've heard that one, but I will.
Oh, really? Okay.
Oh, yeah. I will keep that one in the bank because that's a good one. But no, I think it's definitely something they're going to call for as the year moves on. I think maybe we overplayed the Jim Schwartz defense. Maybe it's not as elite as we thought. They're good. Don't get me wrong. I think it was just a great day for the Steelers offensive line to kind of help them, kind of gain some of that footing back and be able to just pull out that win that I really think the Steelers needed. Like I said, the first half of that game was ugly.
Defense just felt dejected, man.
Yeah.
You know, how many times can you go back out there after your offense does absolutely nothing and put your, balls on the line and just, what are we going to do? I'm going to kill myself to get my team the ball back. And then I'm going to go out there 120 seconds later because we ran once, got 2 incomplete passes and punted.
Yep. It'll be interesting to see kind of where the future is. But in the near future, we got Pittsburgh at Cincinnati on Thursday, short week for them. That's on Prime, and then on Sunday for the Browns, for the Bills. Bills are tonight. We'll talk about them later. We'll get T. Frank's action on the Bills as well. But we got the Browns at home against Miami. So maybe looking like
congratulations to the Browns on your upcoming victory.
I was actually going the other way with that. I was going to be kind to you. You've had a good month. This is your month. I'm trying.
The Dolphins will be leading late, and they'll lose.
Oh man, who would have thought? Mike McDaniel.
We're gonna make Quinshon Judkins look like Barry Sanders. Just wait.
Who would have thought that James Franklin got fired before Mike McDaniel? Not this guy. Not this guy. You
lasted 29 minutes before you took the shot. I appreciate you.
I'm sorry. I had to kind of. I didn't want to bring it out too much. So,
yeah.
Hey, we do want to get to some Penn State news. Speaking of James Franklin, and we're going to bring T. Frank in here in a second. But before we do, let's take a second and thank all of our sponsors. Today's episode is brought to you by Rebich Investments, keeping financial guidance simple. Whether you're just getting started with your first investments or planning for retirement, Rebich Investments is here to help you cut through the noise and focus on what really matters, your financial future. Their team makes it easy to understand your options and build a plan for you. Listen, I'm not just saying that. That's not just a line on a script that says makes it easier for you. I told you before, I'm an idiot when it comes to these kind of things. The math don't math with me. I'm thankful for things like ChatGPT. So I went and talked to Todd and the team, and they really broke it down in a way that I understood. Todd got the dry erase markers out and was drawing on the board, gave me the visuals that I needed. It was really, really helpful. And I honestly walked away feeling more secure about my future financial success, and not even just for me, but for my kids and building plans for them as well. So for more information, visit www.rebichinvestments.com. That's rebichinvestments.com, or give them a call at 814-734-3433. Rebich Investments, keeping financial guidance simple. Tell them Nick from the Rust Belt Rundown sent you. Well, Happy Fally isn't so happy, but I'm happy because T. Frank is here to hang out with us this evening.
Hey,
T. Frank, how you got to be exhausted at this point. How are you feeling over there in Happy Valley?
Oh, just doing film study. Here's the thing, like the way everything went down, you didn't know it was coming, but you had to prepare for James Franklin being fired after that game because it's been a rough 3 weeks for the Penn State Nittany Lions. So, you just build it into your workflow. And yesterday we were prepared and we just went with it. But yeah, doing your film study, stopping, doing all of that, having that all of yesterday, and then listening to Pat Kraft and Terry Smith, interim head coach, talk today. revealing conversation, more revealing than I expected, given just generally the state of media and transparency, and people don't have to really tell you the truth or whatever they want to tell you. And there's always some reading between the lines in those things. But it's been a crazy 48 hours since Penn State lost to Northwestern. They lost to Northwestern, which again, like, I don't know what timeline I'm living in. It's just been
not the one I want, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's been very surprising this year.
Yeah. Well, hey, man, I appreciate you. I sent up a Hail Mary yesterday, and I was like, he's going to be busy, but I want to talk to him. So I appreciate you, carving out a little piece of time for us, man.
Yeah, don't worry. I got the Bills on the other screen, so we're good.
We'll get to them later. But no, in case you do live under a rock, Penn State fired head coach James Franklin yesterday, one day after a 22-21 homecoming loss to Northwestern, which really capped a 3-game Big Ten slide. And I agree with you. I love what AD Pat Kraft said. He said Franklin's big game record factored into this decision. Associate head coach Terry Smith was named interim while a national search begins. It's my understanding from the research that I've done, other positions like Kotelnicki and defensive coordinator, other parts of the coaching staff are staying together. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah,
okay.
That's what Terry Smith said today, although he said, like, it's his first week. He wants to assess, wants to get his feet under him is what he said. So, no changes immediately, but it doesn't mean there aren't changes in the future, because he hinted at some things on the roster that he wasn't necessarily happy with when we talked to him during his introductory press conference.
Yeah, and Kraft kind of noted about that big game ledger, right? He pointed to Franklin's struggles versus elite opponents. ESPN notes he was 4-21 against AP top 10, including 1-18 versus Big Ten top 10 foes as well. So if Franklin's big game record was the breaking point, how much of that is really coaching philosophy versus roster construction in this NIL portal era that we live in?
Yeah, I don't think it was. I don't think that the big game record was the breaking point for Pat Kraft or for the program. What he said, and of course that was the question that was asked, and he said all of it factors in. So all of the things that happened under James Franklin's tenure leading to this point. But the main thing he talked about, and he mentioned it multiple times, was the transfer portal. Yeah. And was aggressiveness and using the modern era of college football. And if you know anything about James Franklin and Penn State's coaching staff and his program building philosophy, he believed in development and retention. So get players in recruiting, develop them, and then pay those players in the NIL era, so you protect the players that you have brought in and you trust, you have relationships with. James Franklin notoriously was picky about players that he'd go into the portal to get. They weren't afraid of the portal, but they would go in and get players they had previous relationships with, guys who maybe went other places and then it didn't work out for them. Pat Kraft intimated here that he wanted a more robust approach to the portal, calling Penn State's resources elite. Now, there is some question, and I wrote about this today at BlueWhiteIllustrated.com, by the way. You can join us for $1 if you want to know more about the coach search and James Franklin and the whole situation. That is whether or not he was positioning himself to say, hey, next coach, we have elite resources. And whether or not elite means Ohio State elite or if it means really, really good, that I think is up for debate. But clearly, Penn State's, here's a great example. Going into the transfer portal and getting 3 receivers, all of which you have underperformed to the season standard so far.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Not getting a defensive tackle in a system that we knew this offseason coming in that Penn State was replacing a lot of defensive tackle. 3 guys left last year that were seniors or senior plus, 6-year COVID guys. Talent on the roster, no doubt, at defensive tackle, but no guys that really fit the system in terms of being able to eat up gaps and be physical in the run game. You've got one guy that was coming off a season-ending injury last year, Alonzo Ford, who had the size, and then beyond that, it's Penn State's athletic defensive tackle group, and that has been a major problem for this year. So, to me, it was not the big game record. It was the backsliding in recruiting, and it was the lack of aggression in the portal to go when the chips were on the table this year, and they brought back all of those players from the class of 2022, the seniors, Drew Aller, Denida Sutton, Zane Durant, etc. And then you just kind of tank, right?
Yeah.
Then you go 3-3. So the decision of the roster to build There's just so many different facets of it. But to me, it was mostly about that, and then a recruiting element that has been kind of an undercurrent so far since NIL really entered in about 2024 or so into the recruiting sphere.
Yeah, no, I think that makes sense.
T. Frank, I'm trying to word my question around sort of the transfer portal and around Terry Smith. You've talked about the wide receiver room. We've talked about the wide receiver room the last couple of years. Keandre Lambert-Smith was here a couple of years ago. He was nothing with Aller, and then he goes elsewhere. Now he's playing in the NFL. I think the last time you were on, we talked about the receivers from last year, Trey Wallace, and his name escapes me, but a couple of guys who did
Amari
nothing
Evans.
at Penn State. Right, Amari Evans. Yes, thank you. Who were essentially nothing with Penn State a year ago and have moved on to greener pastures, and they're both having good seasons. Bring in three guys, like you just said, this year. Good seasons last year, proven college production, and 0 for 3, really, as the season has gone along. And then we promote Terry Smith, the wide receivers coach, to the head position on the football team. Could you sell me as a Penn State fan why Terry Smith was the right man for this job? Is it, and I just looked at it, I'm like, wow, they don't want to move the coordinators off of their sides of the ball, so we're just going to take a position coach. Why not the offensive line coach? Why not the quarterback coach? Why not the running backs room has been tremendous for years. The wide receiver room seems to be, the tight ends coach has been awesome. The wide receiver room has sort of been lacking in the last couple of years. Why take that coach? Is it because he's been doing so little in his room? He has all this extra time. He can now make game day decisions. I'm not excited about the Terry Smith move. I'll just be honest with you. Could you sell me on this?
Yeah, it's a pretty easy sell, and I apologize here for doing this, but you got the wrong information because he's the defensive backs coach, not the receivers coach. He's also the associate head coach. He's the associate head coach who has been elevated multiple times. He's been with James Franklin for 12 years. As he said today, he's recruited 3/4 of the roster. He is their ace recruiter for Western Pennsylvania. He is a former Penn State Nittany Lion who I believe he played receiver here, and that might be what you're.
Okay, maybe that's where I got.
What you're talking
where did I get
about
receiver then?
I apologize. He graduated in '91, so it was before I was really.
So I was 2. Okay,
I know his resume. But I apologize. All the old heads at Penn State are going to be mad at me for not knowing that, and probably Terry. But yeah, he's the defensive backs coach. He's the associate head coach. This was the plan in waiting. If anything were to happen, as he said today, James Franklin had told him if anything ever happened, he would be the recommendation for who to take over as the head coach. So well respected player and coach at Penn State for the last 12 years at plus.
Well, and
feeling better about that. That moves me to why was he not considered for positions elsewhere? Is he's a Penn State? You said he played for Penn State, so he's a Penn State lifer. He's not going anywhere. No amount of money could sway him.
Yeah, essentially, and also, not everyone wants to be a head coach. Not everyone is aspiring to be at the top of the ladder. And, I want to clean up a couple of things. Amari Evans has 5 catches for 127 yards and 1 touchdown this year. He has 59 of those yards on one catch. Now, there is some fairness in order, like Keandre Lambert-Smith went and had 1,000 yards on a 2-7 Auburn team or 5-7 Auburn team or something like that. So players have gone other places and they have had success. And I'm not trying to completely mitigate these things. There has been an issue at receiver, and I use that as the fulcrum in my article to talk about Penn State in the transfer portal, because Penn State has invested in no other position like receiver since 2021, since the transfer portal. They've had 8 guys they brought in over that time span. In just that room. No other position, including the offensive line, which, by the way, is 5 positions in one, have they brought in more guys in the transfer portal. They have tried to fix that room in multiple different ways. And I guess to go back to the original point of the failures in the portal, either from a perspective of the targets that you're trying to acquire or the aggressiveness in which you're using it, seemed to be what Pat Kraft was aiming at. And, Terry Smith is the interim coach. They're conducting a national search. And he's going to be considered for the job just like everybody else is going to be considered for the job. And he gets the on-camera audition. But they are going to be aggressive in who they try and hire, because James Franklin has won, I think, more than all but 5 coaches that are currently active over the last 10 years or so. And so if you're going to move on from that coach, you need to find somebody who is going to do better than that and to win a national championship, because ultimately that is the goal. And Pat Kraft was aiming at that goal by making this decision. So I don't know if the next 6 games are necessarily, I don't want to say relevant, because they're going to try and the team is going to try and win those games. But the decisions here in the last 48 hours are about more than the next 6 games.
So I want to talk about potential replacements and things like that. But before we do you think that keeping Terry Smith around, somebody who, that longtime assistant and associate like you've been talking about, does that, I mean, yes, he's deserving and Franklin vouched for him and things like that, but do you think that helps with recruiting and keeping, commits from decommitting? I mean, obviously you've had people like Spell and other top 300 prospects who have kind of decommitted already. But do you think like keeping somebody like Smith, who has kind of that big picture brain of what the team is trying to do, does that maybe stabilize recruiting a little bit?
Nothing's going to stabilize it right now. So until they know who the next head coach is, none of this will be stable. But as stable as it can be, as much as you can rally the troops, yes, this is a major thing. Pat Kraft outlined that exactly. The reason that he felt like he could make the decision now is because Terry Smith has been there. And this is to get into the recruiting conversation. Penn State does not recruit by position. So Terry Smith isn't recruiting just cornerbacks, and Marcus Hagans isn't just recruiting receivers, and Phil Troutwine isn't just recruiting offensive linemen. They recruit as a staff. And so they have a region that is your region, whether there's a local region, and Terry Smith is a Whitfield legend, was a head coach in Pittsburgh area for a while. He's from Aliquippa. Yeah, you guys know. And so like he has been an ace recruiter in one of the, they've shut Pitt out of Pittsburgh because of what Terry Smith has been able to do. You think of Quentin Martin and just the names I'm going to not even get to here that have come out of Pittsburgh in the last 10 years. He's been a huge factor in that. But they also recruit as a staff, and James Franklin was the lead recruiter on all of these. So the coaching staff has a very broad sense of the recruits, because they don't compartmentalize. So if one guy leaves, whether for a position at another school, because they've had offense coordinators, they've had running backs coaches, guys leave, then you don't have this massive hole in recruiting. Everyone chips in. So Terry Smith has been an integral part of that and one of the leads in that, but the whole staff is a part of that as well. So stopping the bleeding somehow is the plan. But again, James Franklin, to underscore this, James Franklin was loved by his players and his recruits. Many of them chose to come to play for James Franklin at Penn State.
Sure.
And some of the guys that are there, some of their core recruits in the class of 2026, Matt Sieg, 4-star safety, who was an early commit and has been as rock solid as anybody who's ever committed to Penn State, has opened up his commitment, his recruiting. And so that's the situation they're in right now. They're not going to get it all done in one day. They've got to win some football games. They've got to look better on the field. And then they've got to, work outward from keeping the players that are currently able to enter the transfer portal in this 15-day window from leaving, and then address everything out from there. Because there are massive opportunities for teams to poach players in the transfer portal era when you have these situations. So there's a lot of work to do beyond recruiting, just with getting the locker room to come together.
Yeah. Paul, I'm sorry, I'm going to jump in with back-to-back questions here because I want to kind of follow that up with, okay, looking forward, because everybody and their mother is already putting out who's coming to Penn State lists and this and that. And I even, in Matt Rule comes to mind because he kind of took the headlines today, kind of talking about how he, quote, loves his current job, but he didn't shut down speculation about coming. He's a former Penn State alum. He's got ties there. Of course, there's a line that kind of comes to him, maybe a little star and a highlight. But T. Frank, who's on your short list for potential head coach replacements to replace James Franklin?
I cover Penn State football, so I don't know. I don't. I apologize. I don't
all
have
right.
I don't have a strong sense of. But here's the thing: it's like I could give you the names. I could give you all the names that you already know. Kirk Cignetti, Kalen DeBoer, even came up with Heather Dinich over on ESPN today. Like there are so many names, and Penn State is a place where I think people are trying to neg Penn State quite a bit in terms of like Indiana's like, why would you want to go to Penn State? This is a better opportunity than Penn State. It's like, are you sure about that?
Right now.
You sure
this
about
week.
that?
Yeah.
Right, exactly. And so I haven't done personally the legwork to know what those coaching philosophies are, what their track record is as far as the football, the X's and O's things. Because at the end of the day, acquiring talent and getting them to win on the field are the number one jobs of those people. And I have spent the last 10 years learning the intricacies of James Franklin and his staff and following the minutia down to like techniques they want to use at practice. And so like I don't have a good overview of a college football landscape. But you know, I would tell you this. This is the outline of what I think Penn State should go after in terms of what the coach should have as qualities.
Okay.
And Pat Kraft outlined a bunch of them. Essentially, you know, when you have a disciplinarian and then you want to get a player's coach, or you have a defensive coordinator and then your offense stinks, so then you go and you get your offensive guru in the NFL. Like you know, don't swing away from what James Franklin was as a coach, because everyone wanted to bash him for his lack of football knowledge. He wasn't an expert or a guru on offense or defense, but he built Penn State systematically from. I can't even believe people are forgetting this. Like, they were giving Bill O'Brien credit for the fact that when he took over, there were 5 scholarship offensive linemen on the Penn State roster because of the NCAA sanctions. 2 years later, they're in the Big Ten championship game. The championship game. Now, they never progressed from that point, right? They got to a certain point, and there's too much to get to today in terms of, like, what he did internally to get a guy like Pat Kraft to Penn State, who raised the expectations, and to help, you know, throw his weight behind a university president like Neely Bendapudi, who would support the athletic department being aggressive in its monetary policy. There were massive internal fights that fractured Penn State's donor base, fan base, everything.
Yeah.
After Joe Paterno, Bill O'Brien, James Franklin, and he had to wade through all of that to build Penn State into a position where people are complaining that they're not beating Ohio State, and they're in a game with 5 minutes left, down 7, or wherever they might be, when in reality, those teams were out-recruiting and outspending Penn State by massive sums. Yeah. And then, at this point in his career, at this time, with Pat Kraft behind him, these things started to slip from the transfer portal, NIL, the way money has affected the sport. James Franklin wanted to rely on culture, family bonds, the old school things that Penn State fans claim to love.
Right.
He was trying to do football in the money era with those things. And their recruiting was slipping because NIL was making the decisions. I did an article this summer. This is 2 years in a row now where Penn State has lost top 150 recruits to Oregon, Ohio State, Notre Dame, other schools that are being more aggressive with their NIL. Yeah. So these are the factors where you want to be a recruiting program and you're not getting the recruits. Brandon Finney plays for Oregon and started against them in the whiteout. He was a top 150 recruit at corner that they had in the bag until they didn't because Oregon stepped in, and then he went to Oregon. Yeah. These are the decisions. These are the things that ultimately have caused the change here for James Franklin because the on-field product suffered. But he built at Penn State a structure that the next coach will use to be successul. So 100%. Don't go away from that. So I know that was a very long-winded answer, but it's just like there's so many facets of this that are coming to an end and coming to a conclusion here after 12 years. Yeah. And so, like, don't throw that away. The next coach has to build upon that. Right. Now, if you were to say, and I know this started as, what do you want in the next coach? I would
But
say
you got
offense.
that. That was in there. Don't worry, you're good.
Offense is still a priority because offensive coordinators are expensive, and if you continually replace those, that's a drain on your budget. And if you have an institutional high-level view of a quarterback developer or somebody who is a CEO mentality but has that background and can attract quarterbacks, that is extra desirable. That is a very valuable thing. But ultimately, you want a guy that is going to build a program and is going to recruit and has those qualities about him that aren't just, hey, I schemed up a really good defense in 2025, and suddenly my name is I'm the hot shit. So don't fall into that trap. Find somebody who has the full picture because Penn State cannot afford to go backwards because they're already paying James Franklin whatever he has minus whatever he makes going forward.
I was going to say literally can't afford.
Yeah.
T. Frank, we'll transfer into this quarterback talk that you were just getting into a little bit. The future is the future. The coach, we can talk it to death. We got a game this upcoming weekend. We're 6 days out from a football game.
I haven't even watched Iowa yet. Oh my gosh. That's you want to know about like what's keeping me up at night. It's like I've had stress dreams that I'm enrolled in college. You know those like stress dreams that I didn't realize that I was in class and I don't know where my classes are. I'm having those because I haven't watched any Iowa film yet because I've been dealing with all this. So there's a game this week against a really good defense at Kinnick Stadium at night, and a redshirt freshman is going to be starting. Oh boy.
I was just going to say, can you talk to me a little bit about Ethan Grunkemeyer, the arm strength, the anticipation, the ceiling? What tweaks do you plan to make to help him succeed?
Well, you got to limit the playbook. I think you got to play simpler. Drew Aller was doing a lot at the line of scrimmage to get the team into the right looks and the right plays. So there's going to have to be more control from the sideline, I imagine, especially on the road in a hostile environment. And the thing is, Ethan Grunkemeyer, I think, is a gamer. He's a guy that, watching him in high school, was he started at his junior year where he was putting up a lot of yards, but they weren't winning games. And there was a question of, like, can he win you games? And then his senior year, he proved he could. He's not as big as Aller, but he's got every sense of the same ball velocity. Aller's arm power, the ability to drive the ball to any part of the field and throw it with ease anywhere, probably is unmatched in this conversation of Penn State's quarterbacks. But not far off is Ethan Grunkemeyer, and he's got a lightning quick release. He's very smooth. An area that I think Penn State fans will like is that he's very accurate. He does not have a lot of hiccups and mistakes like Aller did, and so there are aspects of him that fit this offense a little bit better. He's a better RPO quarterback. He's a little bit better at those quick throws where he's got to throw up the seam or throw out on a slant where you got to flip your hips and throw now. So all of those things are super smooth and repeatable. And then he's a little quicker. Aller, physical runner, kind of had heavy feet as a runner. Grunkemeyer, not big, not strong, but I think he's got some quickness to him. The question I have is he elusive? Because I know he's quick. Is he elusive? Because if he's not elusive, then it doesn't matter. So I think that this offense could function a little bit better in the way that Andy Kotelnicki wants it to function, which is to be that it's to be that offense that is the RPO and read option centric. I keep wanting. It's not gimmicky in the sense of like everyone uses these things, but relying on those heavily to put the defense in a bunch of conflicts that they can't solve.
No, I think that's fair. It'll be curious to see kind of how they finish out the season. What does this team on Saturday look like? What does the future look like? And I mean, we spent so much time talking about James Franklin. I mean, my heart breaks for Drew Aller. Here's a guy who was probably a projected first-round pick last year, and who knows what'll happen. Maybe he sneaks into the third, coming around for next year. So, I think that's a good reminder for us, though, that there's a lot of football left. There's a lot of stuff that can be pulled from this season. They're not going to be hiring a head coach anytime soon. So it'll be a really interesting rest of season for Penn State and what they can do. Coaching stuff aside, got about 5 minutes left, and I want to end us off just kind of with some Bills talk. But before we transition back to the NFL, T. Frank, what's your one thing that you're going to keep your eye on for the rest of this year as far as the future of Penn State football? Or maybe it's one player, one aspect, one scheme. You choose. Dealer's choice.
I think it's important for this team to play better. Shocker. But that resiliency that Terry Smith talked about today, and certain things that he said were surprising, and I wrote about this today. Where I asked him because he talked about grittiness, toughness, swagger, love of the game, enjoy football, like things he wanted to restore in the team. So I found that surprising. I wanted to know what took them away in the first place, and he didn't exactly dance around the question, but he mentioned a lot of different things. But money in the locker room was the number one thing that came out of his mouth.
Yeah.
And just NIL, all this thing we just talked about, James Franklin's allocation of resources, the thing he was trying to do was prevent this exact thing of the locker room being more focused on their paycheck than winning football games. And when they brought all these guys back on big deals, apparently that has had a problem. So fixing that, institutionally, getting this team focused again. And I don't think that they were not playing hard. I think that they just were not playing together. Yeah. They were not a team offensively that looked like they had any chemistry whatsoever. So those are the things I'm interested to see if they can rebuild and be competitive. Because here's the deal. This team, maybe they weren't the number 2 team. They're a talented team. This is a team that is way too talented to have lost to UCLA and Northwestern. They were by far the better team in both games. They just haven't played like it. Now, on the individual side, the one thing I will say is the defensive tackles are a problem. Yeah. I don't know how they're going to solve that from a personnel standpoint. They are not big enough and strong enough at this point. They have not played and proven that they can hold up on the interior in this scheme, and that is not something you can solve with just more heart. So that's what I want to see from a schematic standpoint, how Terry Smith plans to solve it. Because they've tried a bunch of different things now, and it hasn't worked.
No. Things to keep our eye on.
Who's got a tougher job this weekend, Knowles or Koldernicki?
Schematically, Knowles he's just had a bigger problem the whole time in terms of not having Tony Rojas. Dom DeLucas started. He hasn't been effective. Like, there are more problems. Andy Koldernicki's got a more systemic problem in that I think there is a big... I get the sense there's a problem there with him and the fit with the team.
Interesting.
Okay.
Well, let's put a pin in that. We'll have to unpack that in a future couple weeks. T. Frank, I don't mean to give you some more things that are going to keep you up at night, but I know you're an avid Bills fan. They're down 21-7 to the Falcons right now. 2 minutes
left. It was 7-7 when I joined you guys. What the hell?
It's my fault.
All I saw was Josh Palmer got hurt, and I was like, well, that sucks.
Oh, man. Bijan Robinson has 131 yards at the half. And this was my concern going for Buffalo was the rush defense, you know, and you're seeing that come to life. I mean, they're just force feeding Robinson. I hate to even ask, to make you pick, or can the Bills come back from this? Let's just kind of maybe just go off that rush defense. Should we be concerned if Buffalo loses this game? Should we be concerned? There's my way too early reaction.
You got Josh Allen, so there is a certain amount of, maybe not. Dalton Kincaid's not playing in the game. I don't think Curtis Samuel, to me, never moves the needle, so he's not playing in this game. But now you're just down more players if Josh Palmer isn't playing. And they're getting into a situation where now they're down 21, and I saw Josh was getting hit a lot in this game because Connor McGovern went out. But the defense is a problem. There's no way around that. Yep. Taylor Rapp plays safety for this team, and he starts. And it is a problem because the tackling isn't great, and the coverage isn't much better either. The defensive tackle situation and the defensive line situation has been so unbelievably frustrating with the amount of resources they put into it and the product on the end that they're getting out of it. Jordan Phillips is playing in this game because Daquan Jones is hurt. TJ Sanders went on the injured reserve, and he's a rookie, and they were counting on him apparently. Larry Ogunjobi obviously is suspended. The defensive tackle room is a mess, and they're not stopping anybody. Despite the size they've tried to add, Deion Walker's the only one that's had some flashes. And again, he's a rookie, so he's going to start making mistakes. So, the run defense has been a problem for a while. You have a 225-pound safety that you call a linebacker playing in the middle. And I love Terrell Burgess. I think he's great. But you are obviously, schematically, realistically, physically giving things up when you have smaller linebackers. Matt Milano's not playing in this game, but when is he ever playing in this game? It's the same thing as it was last year. By the time they get to the playoffs, it's going to be the third string. It's going to be the third game of the preseason out there on defense. And they had to they invested a lot in the defense in terms of the amount of players that they have to go through on depth. And I'm just hoping that they all get healthy in time and they make the playoffs to make that work. But yeah, they need home field advantage. They need everything in their opportunity, in their ability. And this defense hasn't been good for a while because the athletes on the back end they're not doing it. Like, they're just not doing it for me.
Not great, Bob.
Paulie, same question.
What's going to happen with the Bills? They're going to be just fine. They have Josh Allen. The defense, they're going to be fine. Like, as a Dolphins fan, I'm just like, yeah, you've got problems on defense, but you don't
First world
have
problems.
Miami Dolphins, right? First world problems. Oh no,
Certainly not.
Right.
See, this
your
is the thing,
linebacker's
is like,
20 pounds too light. Okay, like you said, Burgess is awesome. I knew the defensive backfield was gonna be a little bit light coming in. I agree with you. I thought they invested well in the draft into that defensive line room. Yeah. They brought a couple of guys back. They've got some talent there. Injuries are a son of a bitch. It affects everybody differently. Feel bad for him, but like you said, is Ed Oliver back in tonight? Is he playing?
He's back tonight. And here's the thing: it's like I spend a lot of time being a rational analyst and trying to look at the football in the calculus, and then I go and be a total psycho about my team. So like I get it. Like, I'm like, they're no good. They're like the favorite for the Super Bowl, and I'm like, I see all the problems and nothing good. Horrible hypocrite.
At the end of the day, they've got Josh Allen. If they can stay within a possession and get the ball in the last 2 minutes, let the chips fall where they may. They're going to be fine. Yeah,
that's a big chip to have is Josh Allen.
Yeah.
Well, T. Frank, buddy, thank you so much I know you got a crazy week, had a crazy weekend. You got a lot of work to do, so I appreciate you carving out a little bit of time just for us. And just before we go, again, remind our listeners, where can they catch all of your work?
Yeah, the BWI live show, that is our YouTube show. It is Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday at 10 a.m. on YouTube, of course, anywhere you get your podcasts. And BlueWhiteIllustrated.com, we got a sale going on right now because this is a big time of the year. Like, this is a historic change. This has happened only like 4 times ever in Penn State history. So you can join BlueWhiteIllustrated.com right now for $1 for the first week to try us out. Get in all that coaching search info. We got a hot board up right now from Sean Fitz, my coworker. That's where we have our written content. But yeah, the Blue White Illustrated YouTube channel if you want to watch me talk for another hour about Penn State. Like, I have to limit my Bills talk. It's only for examples and for self-effacement and not for actual, like, we don't talk about the Bills.
All right, guys, that does it for us tonight. Signing off for T. Frank Carr, Paul Adamzak, I'm Nick Artman. That's it. We're done. Have fun.